Good day po sa lahat and welcome po to the 14th day of our Soulergy. And I hope we find ourselves po in depth with the Lord each time that we come to His presence and posture our heart po in prayer. And on our 7th day of Soulergy po, Pastor Josh shared to us the importance of unified prayer and reminded us that Jesus had prayed for us and continually praying for us. And as He is also praying with us. But surely po, we know, right, on how prayer affects us po individually or personally, right? Kung ano po yung nagagawa po pag nananalangin po tayo ng ating mga prayer concerns, right? Prayer gives us peace, rest, and relief. And so much more po in so many levels. But as we strive to pray for one another, do we know po how praying for others affects us? What it does to us? To our character, to our beliefs. How does praying for others affects our hearts, our soul? So for today po, let's look into Acts chapter 2 verses 25, 26, and 28 with a new set of eyes and open our hearts on how Peter reminded his fellow men with these passages from David and how could this be po our utmost goal as we enrich our prayer lives together. So let's read po. I see the Lord is ever present with me. I will not live in fear and abandon my calling. He guides my right hand. My heart is glad. My soul rejoices. My body is safe. You direct me on the path that leads to a beautiful life. As I walk with you, the pleasure are never ending and I know true joy and contentment. Now, the Bible has told us po many stories on how the Lord is ever present on each prayer, on each character, in different situations, especially when they are faced with the challenges po or adversity. Now, let's look back to one specific story of Moses and the Israelites when the Lord have commanded them back and brought them out on Egypt as an example po. On Exodus chapter 17, verses 8 to 15. And to summarize it po, this is the story po where the Israelites are camped in Rephidim and they were attacked by the Amalekites. And also, a time where Joshua was commanded by Moses. We all know the story po, and as per Moses, he stood on top of the hill overseeing or overlooking the battlefield with the staff in his hand as commanded by the Lord together with Aaron and Hur. Sila po yung mga legit na prayer warriors po, di ba po? At literal po, na si Moses po is laying hands upon Joshua as he fights. So, alam po natin yung susunod na story na every time po na tinataas po ni Moses ang kanyang kamay, nananalo po sila. At every time naman po na napapagod siya at nabababa po niya ang kamay niya, natatalo po siya. Aaron and Hur took a stone and sat him down, and both of these men stood up beside Moses, on each side, holding his hand up and keeping it steady until sunset and until they won. Now, let's try to apply this po on our own lives and learn through this character how they set an example for us on what praying for others do to each one. First thing po, what praying for others do to us, number one, it increases our dependency on God through each other's lives. So let's be a Joshua who choose to trust and have faith in Moses when he followed and obeyed his command to fight with no questions asked po. We see how Joshua was dependent on Moses' words, and he knew as well that he will be with him in the fight. He knew that the Lord is present in him and therefore in them. Di man po physically po, alam po ni Joshua na kasama po niya si Moses. That morally and spiritually, Moses, along with their people, is with him in the fight. And through this po, may we be reminded that more than our physical strength to fight, what we need most is to have spiritual strength that lasts until the end of the fight. And I believe it's safe to say po, and imagine po, Joshua uttering as prayer, I see you, Lord, ever present in me. I will not live in fear and abandon my calling because you guide my right hand. Matthew Henrys once said po, when God intends great mercy for His people, He first set them praying. And when we pray po together and as we cry out to God, let it be reminded po that that togetherness po emphasizes even more our reliance to God, that we will be able to do His work through our lives. D.L. Moody, he who kneels the most stands the best. What praying for others do to us po, number 2, it brings joy in our hearts. So let's all be an Aaron and Hur po who chose to be available and able to support Moses to do the work willingly and proactively. There was joy po in their hearts as they did what they did because no one have asked them po. Wala naman pong pumilit po sa kanila. Wala pong nag-utos sa kanila. Hindi naman po sila inutusan ni Moses na mapapagod ako, kailangan ko ng katulong, kailangan ko maghahawak ng kamay ko. They didn't know what's gonna happen on top of that hill. Right? But they did went because they wanted to po. And they were willing to do just as anything. Some says, there are 2 reasons why we do things po, right? Number 1 is because we need it, we need to do it. Or number 2 po is because we want to do it. And oftentimes, when we do things po that we want, surely those are the things that will make us happy and brings us joy. Best example po dito, kapag nalulungkot po tayo, right? Tapos, parang gusto po natin kumain ng ice cream or comfort food. Kaya nga po siya tinawag na comfort food, di ba po? It gives us joy. Or we go to our friends or to our family and spend time and just laugh, be in a story. And same goes with Aaron and Hur. We are proactive in finding and doing things that makes us happy. Acts chapter 2:26. My heart is glad, my soul rejoices, and my body is safe. Romans chapter 12, verse 12, rejoicing in hope, enduring in distress, persisting in prayer. And them holding Moses' hand po is them persisting in prayer with him. Here in Pinnacle Village po, we believe that lives are stronger when connections are deeper. And let me tell you this po, it is also applicable. And this applies po in so many levels, especially in the area of prayer. Because indeed, prayer is stronger when we do it together. What praying for others do to us po, number 3, it increases our love for one another. So let's all be a Moses who chose to fight alongside others by raising our hands up high in prayer. No doubt po, Moses did what he did as an act of love to God and to people. Yung pagmamahal niya po sa Diyos at pagmamahal niya po sa tao, ay hindi naman po nangyari overnight. He struggled. He was shaken many times over. And he had a lot of ups and down moments with the Lord po. And it is also the same with us. It is a process po between him and the Lord. And for him to progress and to be on that loving stage, he chose to do and acted on what the Lord have commanded him to do again and again and again until it is forged po into who he is. And it is the same for us po. It can never be part of us until we immersed ourselves po with that trait, with that character again and again until it sticks. Until it sticks. Mark Ballinger said, the very act of praying for someone else builds the love in your heart for the person. Through prayer, you are reminded of your desire for their well-being. You are reminded of the struggles they are enduring. And overall, you are focused on that person. And that moment teaches us and our hearts humility with the hope of benefiting them through your intercession. Builds the love. Meaning po, it is progressive. It is continuous. It is growing. It is an act po that needs to be done repeatedly again and again and again until it breaks our heart on what breaks theirs. At maturuan po talaga yung puso po natin na magpakumbaba sa panalangin. Galatians 6:2, Amplified Version. Carry one another's burden, and this is the way you will fulfill the requirement of the law of Christian love. Timothy Keller once said on his book po, God's Wisdom in Navigating Life, life is compared to a path because every action takes you somewhere. It's an act that changes you, make it easier for you to do it again until you cannot rest unless you are doing it. And he later on said po, on the same book, sow a thought, rip an action, sow an action, rip a habit, sow a habit, rip a character, sow a character, rip a destiny. So church, may we continue to pray for one another and carry each other's burden, like how Jesus have done for us and is doing for us. To love like Jesus, we must pray for others like Jesus. And as we prepare our hearts po in prayer tonight, let us make prayer an act po of our love to our God, to people, that it may be a habit forging into our character, leading us to a joyous and God-centered life. So we may be able to say, as what Peter reminded and mentioned through the words of David, I see the Lord is ever present with me. I will not live in fear and abandon my calling because He guides my right hand. My heart is glad. My soul rejoices. My body is safe. You direct me on the path that leads to a beautiful life. As I walk with you, the pleasure is never ending, and I know through joy and contentment.